Good morning everyone. Welcome back to the another session, and this video is about control statements. So generally, before we talk about the statement, let's see why these statements are. So before control statements, we were discussed about sequential statements, right? So sequential statement is what? That is the statements which will be executed in sequential manner. So if I write any instruction here, any line of code here, so once after it executes, it will go to second line, next it will go to third line. So this is what we used to call with the name of sequential statements. And now this is not sequential statement, and this is called as selection statement. And you can see one more time the algorithms concept. There you will be going to know what is sequential, what is selection, right? Now control statements is an example of selection statements. So these statements, the definition of control statement is the statements by which we determine the flow of a program are called control statements. So we will be determining the flow of a program, and these statements are basically of if statement and switch statements, jump statements, loop statements. These are what the categories of it. And generally if statements are called as decision control statements. All these categories, simple if else, nested if if ladder, all these will comes under decision control statement. Because means the mean of this is will be taking a decision which block of statement will execute based upon the category or based upon the condition. And switch statement is multi-way control statement. Okay, multi-way control statement. And if you refer other textbooks, you can see this simple if as single way selection statement, two-way selection statement, and three-way selection statement, multi-way selection statement. You can see it, right? So switch statement is also called as multi-way selection statement using of switch and case. The next is jump statements. So jump statement, the name itself it tells. So using of this statements, we will be jumping from one block of code to the other block of code. That is what jump statement. Loop statement is, these are the statements which will repeat number of times until the condition fail. Loop means what? Cycle, right? So that cycle will get executed until condition fails. So this is what about loop statements, and these are what the general information about control statements. And in the examination point of view, you have to be very careful to understand the question first of all. If you are given with question control statements, you can write the answer to elaborately describe about this. Okay, if your question is conditional statement, then you have to write about loop statements. If the question is about conditional statements, then you can write about loop statements. If the question is only control statements, you can write what is what. Okay, now we'll discuss in the next video what exactly uh, the syntaxes of this. Fine, let's continue about the syntaxes of control statements, if statements. This is what simple if. The syntax of simple if is, if the condition what I am writing here, if it is true. Okay, if it is true. So every condition, usually these are the statements which will be called as decision control statements. So we'll take a decision which is yes or no, right? That is true or false. If something is true, we'll do some code to be implemented. If something is false, we'll execute appropriate block. Did you understand? So now look at this example. I believe that you can understand. If I wrote some condition here, if this condition is true, then only will come inside of this gate. If not, will not allow inside of this gate to execute this block of statements. Now look at this example. There are two values A and B. Either A can be big or B can be big. Both cannot be big at a time, right? Let's take the example that A value is 5 in my example and B value is 6. So both at a time will not be big. Either A can be big or B can be big. Fine. Now, so if these values will get changed for a while, I wanted to update my values 6 and 5. Then as far as these values are concerned, B is big. As far as these values are concerned, A is big. So at a time only one value will be big. So here when you put this condition, either this can be true or false. Okay. Now what is simple if? Simple if block will get executes when this condition is true. When this condition is false, will not come inside, instead will come out of this block. Entry is restricted. You always keep in mind, whatever condition we'll write here, if it is true then only will come inside, otherwise we won't come inside. Okay. If this condition is true, then only we will come inside to execute, otherwise will not come. So as far as this example is concerned, A is given with 6 value, B is given with 5 value. So 6 is what? Bigger than 5. Now we'll come inside to print A is big. So this is what simple if. And don't ever try to use capital letters. Please use only small letters because C is a case sensitive. Now look at this if else. If else is what? Both the cases will execute. If is true, then we'll execute this block. If it is false, where we'll go? We'll execute this block. This is true block and this is false block. That means depending upon the condition what we are writing here, if it is true, we'll execute this block. If it is false, we'll execute this block of statements. And if you are writing programs, so keep in mind this, if you have only one statement to be executed, no need to put this curly bracket. This is advisable to keep when you have more number of statements. For else also the same. Fine. So as I have only one statement down of it, I may not use this curly bracket, still I can get execution of my code. So this is all about if and else. So in this video we were seen about simple if, how it works, and if else, how it works. In the next video we'll be going to learn about the nested if else and else if ladder with the example. Okay, thank you all.